Hello everybody, today I'm going to address the issue of my printer not loading ink. There's a couple of reasons why this can happen, and I'm going to do my best to explain to you how. First, I want to say thanks to uvprinterparts.com, as they gave me the parts here to show you how to do this. You can get your inks and your print heads and all the pieces for your refined color machines there, and many other Chinese machines. The first thing could be is your printer is actually low on ink or out of ink. If the bottom of the hose runs dry, obviously you're not going to be able to feed ink into your system. This might show up with your print heads having dropped in a little bit of that color of ink. When it runs low to the straw, it loses its siphon and drips a tiny bit of ink on your surface that you're printing. So check your inks. I'm going to put a link to the inks that I actually use in the description of this video. Next thing you need to do is make sure that your dampers are okay. On my UV printer, which is the Refined Color 6090 UV printer, we have 3 heads. There's 2 screws here that you need to remove with a Phillips head screwdriver. And you just remove the screw here and here. I've already removed those. Now with your printer off, it's important that your printer is off when you open this up and you start messing around with it, because you can short print heads out, you can short motherboards and print head boards out, and it costs a lot of money. They're all very expensive. So you actually want to get yourself a syringe that hasn't been used, or you cleaned it out really, really well last time you used it, because you don't want any dry inks getting in your lines. And we're going to pull out our dampers. So if we can get a shot of this real quick. We'll pull out our dampers one by one. If you're running CMYK over here, you'll see you have 1 hose per color. But if we're dealing with our white, or maybe if you have a varnish hooked up, you'll have the straw comes down and it hooks to this Y, and you have 2 dampers on 1 hose. So you're going to need to pull both these dampers out, like so. And then with your finger, cover 1 damper up right here so it can't suck air, and put your syringe in here and pull ink. Do that until there's no air bubbles. Okay, and then we'll cover this one, and then we'll pull from here. When you're satisfied with those, we'll put them back. Now we've determined we have ink, and we have ink to our dampers. This is actually good ink, so I'm going to put it right back into my inkwell. Also, ink is very dirty. It gets on everything. UV ink is a little toxic. Don't eat it. But it might burn open wounds or something, so a good idea is to wear gloves. So do as I say, not as I do, because I'm not going to wear gloves. Wipe them off on my pants. Okay, so we've determined that we have ink in the inkwell. We've pulled ink into the dampers. So now we know that there's ink in the ink tubes and there's no air. If there's air, you're gonna have air pockets. It's not gonna be able to print correctly, and it might be a spotty. It might appear as if there's a problem. Okay, after you're done loading your ink, we wanna go ahead and run a test print and see how that looks. So turn it on, run your nozzle check, and see if you have a good nozzle check, if you have color coming in or not. If color isn't coming in, there's a common problem that could be, and that's your ink pad or your capping station may not be sealed to the print head. Station I made. Inside of this is your ink pad. This thing is mounted to the top of your capping station. These are your ink pads. This whole thing together is your capping station. So these can be ink pads or caps, so depending on how you want to refer to them. The Chinese vendors always tend to refer to these as ink pads, although in the English system you'll be calling these caps, ink caps, or capping station. Okay, I actually have a spare one here, thanks to uvprinterparts.com, that we can show you already pulled out of the system. So underneath of your ink, I'm getting ink on my hands. So underneath of your ink cap, you have these 2 lines here, and it goes out to this hose, and this hooks into your ink pump, which is on the back of the machine. So it actually pulls a vacuum on this. And what this is doing is actually sucking ink through the dampers down through your print head to fill your print head up with ink. So you either fill your print head or to prime your print head to get ready to print. That's that weird noise, noise you hear when you first turn it on, is your ink pump's pulling a vacuum on this to pull ink through this. So what's important is you'll see these have this rubber seal right here. And that rubber seal Sorry, this is an old used crappy print head. It's broken. Actually needs to fit perfectly on top of your print head like this with a good seal. You see these are spring loaded, so this should actually has a little pressure against it to create a seal so it can pull the vacuum and the ink down. So sometimes you see this print head got struck right here, so it's no longer capable of making a good seal. It's the only reason this one broke. Hit a board we were printing on. Unfortunately, it cost me a $300 print head. But we have the ink cap here. If these are not lined up, here I'll exaggerate it, or something like this, obviously that's not going to seal, and that's not going to be able to suck the ink through the print head to prime your print head. And then there's also sometimes when these things come new, from my understanding, is these aren't touching. You're either not touching or not touching well. So they might be something like this or just barely touching, and we need to raise the print head up. But anyways, the quick and simple way to make sure that this has a good seal to the print head is to go to your waste tubes and put a syringe on it and pull it. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So your waste tube, being this guy, go into your ink pumps or your vacuum pumps, and then waste it into your baby bottle thing on the back. And I'm going to show that to you right now. Okay, so we're going to need the same Phillips head screwdriver we use to take the door cover off the print head. And there are screws on the tops of this all the way around this panel. You're going to need to remove those screws with your Phillips head screwdriver, and then you can remove this top panel here. Now you don't have to remove that panel to check the waste tubes, but I want you guys to see the vacuum pumps and kind of better understand what we're doing here. Okay, so these guys are your ink pumps or your vacuum pumps. You have 3 of them. Well, this one has 3 of them because I have a CMYK white and a varnish print head. So you just had CMYK or 1 print head, you'd only have 1 of these. 2 print heads or 2, and so forth. And then there is a hose right here coming from your capping station and your ink pads that come up and go to one of these vacuum pumps, and then it wastes the ink, pumps out of this, wastes the ink into the baby bottle here. And now we're going to actually take these right here and we're going to pull the vacuum to see if we're any good. Okay, so we have our syringe and we're going to pull this one out here. I'm not sure which color this is, but all I did was pull this out of the baby bottle. With this having white here, that indicates to me that this is probably white. If this ink here was black, it's your CMYK, and if it's clear, it's your clear or your varnish. But we'll take this syringe and we're going to actually put it on the hose like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull a vacuum. Now if it pulls super easy and no ink comes out, you don't have a good seal. So see, it's very easy. I don't have a seal, and my print head I actually have purposely off to the side. Put this back. Okay. Now since my capping station doesn't have a seal, there's a couple things we can check. Actually, it's most likely the capping station just needs risen up. And you can do that with 4 little washers like I have here. I'll put a link in the description, 2 washers for you to take a look at to raise these up. And you just need to raise them up just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, just to get a better seal on your print head. And let's just see how we do that right now. Okay, so this is my color print head. And you'll notice on the capping station there are 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we need to do is actually take these screws out. And now your capping station is loose. Now you don't have much play with how it goes. These are all done in by the CNC machine. But all we have to do is take these small little washers like this, and then put your bolt through here. and tighten that down. And we do that 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and you raise it up. And you just take your little washer and you do that 4 times, what I just showed you, on your ink cap. And then essentially your washer is sitting on top, underneath of the ink cap, and now your ink cap is up maybe an 1/8 inch, 1/16 of an inch, 3 millimeters or so up, and it pushes harder on your print head, and you will get a better connection there. So now I'll show you what this looks like, or how this sucks, after I fix this back how it was, and then I'll get a good suction and show you what your syringe should look like pulled in color. So now, right now, we're known as uncapped. I'm gonna go ahead and close this door. And we wanna make sure our print head is capped and power is still turned off. If it's turned off, I'll be able to just pull by the hand over here into its locking position. Okay, with this in its locked homing position, we'll go ahead and pull on the syringe. And it's not easy to pull back, actually. It's fighting me quite a bit. And you can see I let go and it kind of bounces back. So we're getting good suction. Now this shouldn't be easy to pull out like on top of your print head, but we'll just take this and pull like this. And we'll keep it low. And here comes some ink. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're getting a few milliliters of ink and it's starting to flow through that waste tube. And like I said, this shouldn't be easy. Okay, so we're got a good seal with our ink pad. Okay, that's really it to make sure you're getting ink. So if you have ink all the way through the waste tube, when you pull on it, then there's ink in your print head. And again, follow those steps that I have referenced back that I showed you on how to fill your print head. And then do a clean. I'll show you how to do a clean as well by just clicking the button that says clean. There's a button right here on your interface. If you have a refined color machine, it says clean. And you clean your print head. And then if it gets through all of those steps, your nozzle check should come out fine. It might take a couple more cleans to get a good nozzle check, but your color, you should start seeing your color come in. Please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and join the other thousands of people that have already done so. And please head on over to uvprinterparts.com if you guys need ink or your print heads. We got them in the United States ready to ship out, especially for refined color machines. Again, I'm Jay. This is my to-do list. Thanks for stopping.